What's going on, everybody? C4 here today, continuing with the best 7-round mock draft series you're going to find on the YouTube platform. Today we're continuing with the Indianapolis Colts. We're going to be looking at their needs, their free agency, their 2016 draft, another old front office with Ryan Grigson, who seems like the most hated man to ever step in a Colts organization. And then we'll give our own attempt at a 7-round mock draft and see if we can do it better than their new front office. So the Colts last year, 8-8. 10th overall offense, 30th overall defense. Their MVP, in my opinion, was Andrew Luck, who looked like he was in the front running. Well, not front running, but at least he was in the hunt for the overall MVP award, it seemed, for, the middle part of last season. And it was a good bounce back season for him. There's times in 2015, a lot of people thought maybe that was it. Maybe he peaked, and he'll never be much more than what he is. But I still think the ceiling is as high as it's been when he came out of Stanford. And if they continue to build up the offensive line and give this guy a defense, I think the sky is the limit for Andrew Luck still. Their needs before free agency started is linebacker, running back, cornerback, defensive end, and offensive lineman. In free agency, they signed Kamar Aiken at the wide receiver spot, which I think speaks volumes to not only where they see Philip Dorsett, but maybe they're planning on not re-signing Dante Moncrief. He's set to be a free agent coming up soon. Not exactly sure what that free agent signing really means, but it's not a bad deal. They got him on an affordable contract, and he can be a guy that gets 700-800 yards a season, so that's not bad. I give that a C+. They released Dwayne Jackson, which freed up $5.5 million of cap. I'm giving that a C+. Obviously, it was a cap move, but I think personally, even though I'm a fan of Antonio Morrison, I don't really see the cover at linebacker. I think Dwayne Jackson offers more being on your roster than not, especially with a defense that's that terrible. So I don't really, I personally would have kept Dwayne Jackson. They lost Joe Reitz, their starting right tackle. They signed Jack Doe to a 3-year, $19 million deal. I'll give that a C+. Emerged as a fairly reliable weapon and outplayed Dwayne Allen for the most part of last year. I just think that is some decent money to a guy that you're not exactly sure if he's a one-year wonder or not. Speaking of Dwayne Allen, they traded Dwayne Allen a 6th round to the Patriots for a 4th rounder. I'm giving that a C just because I'm not going to give anything or any dealings with the New England Patriots a high grade. You don't deal with the Patriots. Dwayne Allen, you watch him just have a career year next year. Something crazy like that. 2 tight ends set, the second coming of Aaron Hernandez in terms of pairing with Rob Gronkowski. Something dumb. Just watch that happen. Colts, god damn you. They signed Barkevious Mingo on a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. I'll give it a C. There's still some upside, I think, for Mingo. And he'll definitely get the opportunity in a very weak Colts linebacking core. They got John Simon, 3-year, $13.5 million. I'll give that a B. I think he was a very solid linebacker for the Houston Texans, and this may play out to be a Connor Barwin-like signing for the Colts. Speaking as an Eagle fan, Barwin came over from the Texans, was kind of lost in the shuffle there, had like 15.5 sacks or something like that, 13, 14, 15.5 sacks, his first real year with the Eagles, so that was good. They signed Jabal Sheard to a 3-year, $25.5 million deal, C+. Good signing to help improve that defense. They got Robert Turman back on a 2-year deal that could be worth upwards of $4 million. C-. I don't really think there's whole much there for Robert Turman. He's not bad. He's just, I don't think he's ever going to be a 3-down starter. Good depth. And they re-signed Darius Butler on a 1-year, $3 million deal. Give it a C+. He was, graded out not terrible last year for Pro Football Focus, and we'll give him that grade. So looking at their 2016 draft, how their last draft happened. I thought it was a decent draft. They got first-round pick, 18th overall, Ryan Kelly, the center from Alabama. I know he was a little bit banged up last season, but it was a great pick, a great position of a need. I think he started in all 16 games. I just remember he had a little bit of a knock, and I don't know if he played 100% for the most part of last season, but that was a great pick. They needed to get a center. They needed to improve that offensive line. They got TJ Green in the 2nd round out of Clemson. I thought that was a little bit of a reach, to be completely honest with you, but it was not a bad pick. And I think, again, you need to get younger. And they already lost Mike Adams. He's gone to free agency, so they're in that process. And I think TJ Green will have the opportunity to start next year. 3rd round, they get LaRaven Clark, the offensive tackle from Texas Tech. I think that's just more of a project guy. I don't think he's ever really going to be much of a starter. I think he started 3 games last year with the Colts, but I think LaRaven Clark, know how to speak. I think he'll probably just be a depth offensive lineman. That's his ceiling for me. They got Hassan Ridgeway and Antonio Morrison in the 4th round. I was a big fan of both those picks. They got Joe Haeg, Carson Wentz's offensive lineman at North Dakota State in the 5th round. I think he actually played a little bit for them. He started 14 games last year for the Colts. I can't speak to if he was great or if he was shit, but getting a guy that I guess 5 games starts in the 5th round, that's not bad at all. It's tremendous value. And then with their 2 7th round pick, they got Trevor Bates and Austin Blythe. I can't really speak to either one of those guys. So overall, looking at Ryan Kelly, TJ Green, Antonio Morrison, and Joe Haeg, I think they got great value in last year's draft class, to be completely honest with you. It wasn't a terrible one, wasn't an outstanding one, but there is still, guys on that roster that present lots of upside, and hopefully they can turn it around. Even though I hate the Colts because of, the Peyton Manning stench that's still there, I don't necessarily want to see them fail by any means, because it's pretty much everyone against the Patriots in the AFC for me as a fan of the Eagles looking in. So that is the 2016 draft. Now let's jump into my 7th-round mock draft for the Colts here, and it is a great one, if I'm completely honest. So, with their first-round pick, 15th overall, I've been going with Haason Reddick, the outside-inside, just linebacker of Temple. I don't really necessarily know where he's going to fit. I assume with the Colts he'd be an inside linebacker, but his traits as an edge rusher, he was pretty much a down lineman for the Temple Owls. I think he could be an outside linebacker in a 3-4, but he can play anywhere, and that's the biggest need for me is linebacker for the Colts. 6'1", 240 pounds, 4'5", 240, 24 reps on the bench press, 36.5-inch vertical, very, very athletic. NFL comparison is Ryan Shazier, but I do see, I don't think that's actually that fair of a trait, because Shazier was always more of an athletic guy, where Haason Reddick, much more refined technically. You know, Shazier came in just the burner. Ran an incredibly fast 40 time. And everyone knew how athletic he was. But Haason Reddick, he's a guy with lots of production, great technique. And then he surprised everyone with his athleticism at the scouting combine. But I think for Haason Reddick, he will be viewed as an inside linebacker with John Simon and Joel Sheard currently viewed as the outside linebackers in that scheme. So, I mean, right now it looks like Antonio Morrison and Sean Spence are starting inside. Reddick has more upside than both of them. I love Antonio Morrison. I hope he continues to get some snaps there. But, I mean, they signed Sean Spence. He's a depth guy. He was a depth guy with the Titans. Reddick can come in and be a day one starter and instantly improve that team. And he probably can, you know, you can have some packages where he goes to the outside. Certainly he's undersized to be a 3-4 outside linebacker. But when you have the technique and the pass rushing skills that he possesses, you might be able to come up with some gimmicky type plays that can get him more involved on the defensive side of the ball at getting after the quarterback. But he showed at the Senior Bowl he has great coverage ability, and I just really think he's a kind of guy. You're not getting a solid prospect because his position is somewhat fluid, and there may be other teams that want to pick a guy that's consensually this is what he plays. But I think for a team, the Colts, they didn't help anywhere in the linebacking spot. There you go. Haason Reddick instantly improves that defense. It would be a phenomenal pick for them. Jumping to the 2nd round pick, 46. I have been going with Dorian Johnson, the offensive guard from Pitt. 6'5", 300 pounds, 427, 40, 21 reps on the bench press. NFL comparison, Jack Mewhort, who's debatably the best player on that offensive line. I can see Dorian Johnson coming in right away and competing for that right guard spot. Right now it has Denzel Good as a starter. They got Brian Schwenke, who came over from the Titans. Maybe Schwenke, I think he graded out fairly decent. Not going to say great from Pro Bowl Focus last year, but I think Dorian Johnson, he is a great guard, probably one of the best value picks of this draft. I think if the offensive guard or the interior offensive line wasn't as strong with, obviously the top 2 guys, I guess Forrest Lamp and the other guy, which I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now. But I mean, right now the offensive line, it's just not. What I'm trying to say is the offensive line is not as important this year because there's no elite prospect. There's just a bunch of good guys. That's what I'm trying to say. So Dorian Johnson in the 2nd round would be a good value pick at a position of need. They continue to build up that offensive line. I think the right-hand side of that line is looking significantly weaker than the left-hand side. So get some guys that can play on the right. I think Dorian Johnson can come in and compete for that starting right guard spot day one. Jumping to the 3rd round pick, number 80. I've been going with Donta Foreman, the running back from Texas, who after his pro day may be a bit of a stretch here in the 3rd round, maybe. But I believe, this is how my board went when I was doing my full 7-round mock, he still could be there in the 3rd round. 6 feet tall, 200. I think he ran at 235. At his pro day, he ran 4.40 or something in the low 4.4s. So, I mean, it was... pro days usually have to add an extra 1/10 of a second. So he probably ran close to a 4.5. Similar build to a Leonard Fournette. Similar athleticism as a Leonard Fournette. Similar skill set to a Leonard Fournette. I think Fournette is definitely the better running back. A lot more vision, a lot more natural ability. But I think with a guy like Foreman, you get that, smash and dash. Frank Gore's not getting any younger. Robert Turbin's not going to be the future. Josh Ferguson, maybe bringing him in as a scat back or bring him in for a change of pace. But you need still to get the guy that's going to take over for Frank Gore. Old man Frank Gore, it's still pretty incredible that he's able to keep up that production at this age. but I think you need to get the next franchise running back. Get Andrew Luck, that franchise running back. And Foreman certainly has that ability. Certainly a scheme fit. The Colts don't necessarily need their running back to catch, 10 balls a game. Frank Gore does not get more than 2 or 3 receptions, maybe a game. That's the same kind of production and kind of player that Foreman will be in the NFL. When they want to have their running back run, they want him just to run between the tackles, and that's what you're going to get in Foreman. True and true, and I think that would be a great pick there in the 3rd round if he's still there. But he was for my mock draft. Jumping to, they have 3 4th-round picks, so hopefully they can hit here, and I got tremendous value, I think, here, personally. So with the first pick in the 4th round, 121, I've been going with Damontae Kazee, this cornerback from San Diego State, 5'10", 185 pounds, ran a 4.54 40, 11 reps on the bench press. This guy was uber productive at San Diego State. Consistently he was for his whole tenure there, he was fairly productive. But last year, he was the Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year, 75 tackles, 7 pass breakups. He had the 2nd most interceptions in college. 8 picks. Just really good. I think 7 picks last year, 8 picks the year before. Just his production is very good. He's a nickel corner. Clear, he's not the height, weight, speed type player. But right now, looking at the starting corners, they got Vontae Davis. He's no spring chicken. They got Rashawn Melvin, Darius Butler. I think there is room right in there for their, a nickel corner to get carved out. And that's Kazee. He might be one of the top nickels in this year's draft class. I think I saw draft ranking of nickel corners. He was number 3. So being able to get that here in the 4th round for a team that just needs to get the best defensive players available that can come in and improve that defense, that is exactly the kind of pick that the Colts need to make, and put him back there in that cornerback spot and watch him start some games as a 4th round draft pick. There you go. Great value. Jump to the 2nd 4th round pick 137. I've been going with Dwayne Smoot, the outside linebacker from Illinois. I think what you get with Dwayne Smoot is project. He had his tape was inconsistent. I think what you get with the type of player with him, he's 6'3", 264, so he's a scheme fit as a 3-4 outside linebacker. 4.77 40, which wasn't bad by any means. NFL comparisons, Anthony Chickillo, who was fairly productive at the University of Miami while he was there. But I mean, he's going to be a rotational edge rusher, and that's kind of what you need. Looking at the depth behind Jabal Sheard and John Simon, you got Mingo, who, what's going to go on Mingo? Is he finally going to put it all together, or is he going to be the underwhelming first-round draft pick that he's been for Cleveland and the Patriots? Outside that, you got Kurt Magott, who was, decent. He had some injuries at Tennessee. You had Akeem Ayers, his other depth, but I think you can still have a spot on that roster to go with the best rotational edge rusher to help get after the quarterback, because they need edge rushing help there in Indianapolis. So I think Dwayne Smoot, a guy with, he was very productive at Illinois, fairly athletic. I mean, 4.77 and almost 270 pounds. That is great 40 time for him. But you just need to get some more guys that can get after the quarterback. I don't know other way to say it. Have a stable of edge rushers, which they don't really have there right now. So I think getting a guy like Dwayne Smoot in the 4th round who has some upside, can learn, doesn't have to be rushed right away. You just bring him in special blitz packages would be a good pick for the Colts. And I finish out with their 3rd 4th round pick, their final 4th round pick 144. I've been going with Jordan Leggett, the tight end from Clemson, replacing a Clemson tight end with another one. 6'5", 260 pounds, put up 18 reps on the bench press, 4.33 20-yard shuttle, 12 seconds, 60-yard shuttle, fairly athletic. I mean, he came up to play, man. He was very, very good for Deshaun Watson at Clemson, was a safety net type player. What else do you want him to do, man? He had 40 passes, 40 receptions, 500 yards, 8 touchdowns last year. Was really, really good. Actually, no, I think he had 7 touchdowns last year. Sorry, 700 yards and 7 touchdowns last season. But he was very productive his entire career there. Great size. The only thing really is his lack of, it just seems like commitment, not like he's fully invested. But, that changes sometimes. That's one of those things that once you become and get put and thrown into a professional environment from the college game, it really, it's kind of a sink or swim. So I guess there's a little bit risk there. And if he didn't have that, he may be viewed as a 3rd round prospect. I think, he's going to come as a backup. They clearly played Jack Doyle to be their starter. But after Jack Doyle, you have Eric Swope, Modal as your backup tight end. I think that backup tight end spot is still wide open for starting competition. And I think a guy like Jordan Leggett, tremendous value in the 4th round, would instantly add the top tight end depth and replace what you got and lost in Dwayne Allen, I go all for it. I think he's another good weapon, and they've kind of established that they do, if it's right, try to run a 2 tight end set there with Indianapolis, because when ideally you'd be able to have Jack Doyle and Dwayne Allen on the field more often than not at the same time last season. So now I don't think you kind of limit that with the depth you have at the tight end spot now. So go get Jordan Leggett and go have a guy with upside that was very productive for Clemson and see what Andrew Luck can do with him. And then finish out the draft in the 5th round, pick 158. I have them going with John Heck, the offensive tackle from North Carolina, the big monster that blocked for Mitch Trubisky, 6'7", 300 pounds. His tape actually looked pretty good. I mean, I've seen more so. I was just watching North Carolina games, and you just saw this tackle that was just jacking guys up. He looked gigantic, great length, but from the right tackle spot, he was doing a pretty good job. I saw probably 2 or 3 North Carolina games, and I was really surprised he didn't have very much hype around him. I thought, this guy here, Jesus Christ, he might have lay claim to be one of the top right tackles this year's draft class, and it seems like he's just, more so teams are going to fall in love with his size and his project. So, I see that happening. I think the right tackle spot is somewhat... It's not solid. You got Joe Haig slated as the starting right tackle. You got Jeremy Vujanovic. Who the hell is that? Exactly. So I think that right tackle spot, you definitely need to get some cover there. And at Joe Haig, he did start quite a few games last year. I don't think they all were at right tackle. I thought he played a little bit of guard. I think getting a guy like John Heck, who's a prospect, personally, I'm a fan of. He was my top tackle. Still available in the 5th round, and they still could look at solidifying that right tackle spot and helping out Andy Luck. So there you go, guys. That is my 7-round mock draft and free agency and all that stuff for the Indianapolis Colts. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. This is your first time stopping by. Don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. 100 likes on this video. Tomorrow we will see the Washington Redskins. And until next time, it's your boy C4 saying peace out.